guys, welcome back again from Tampa Bay on a beautiful, overcast but cool and breezy day. Perfect weather for riding a bike. Got some cool stuff going on. My new rear suspension, the Penske double clicker shock assembly, is on the truck being delivered in just a couple days. I'll of course have the full how to install video for that, which should be very easy compared to doing the front forks. It's a whole bolt-on assembly and just a little bit of quick setup. That's basically all there is to a completely new rear suspension on this FZ09. So a lot of interesting news coming out of the big European bike show, where a lot of the manufacturers revealed their 2018 models, including some from Yamaha. Some good stuff, some weird stuff. Where are you going, dude? So the weird stuff is the three-wheeled version of this. Very strange. You might have seen some three-wheeled vehicles. I'm not talking about Can-Am Spyders or trikes. I'm talking about really a proper three-wheeled leaning motorcycle. Very strange, especially to see for the first time. I can't wait to test ride one. I have absolutely no interest, at least right now, in ever buying anything like that. This dude is checking me out hard in the mirror. I don't know if he's looking at the camera or the bike or what, but he's going mirror to mirror. So this thing is basically an FZ09 with two front wheels, two regular motorcycle wheels, not like car tires. And it's on a very unique swing suspension. So the whole thing tilts and leans just like a motorcycle, but you've got two full contact patches in the front. Now, of course, it's much wider. Kind of reminds me of a snowmobile, the way it's kind of haunched in the front, and it's very tall. The tank looks like it comes up to about here. It doesn't look like a motorcycle, that's for sure. But there have been some scooters over the last few years, mainly aimed at city riding, where there's a lot of slow going, a lot of stop and go, because it stays upright. You don't have to balance at a stop. I can see it being appealing to some people. I really don't know if there's a huge market for anything like that here in the US. I mean, there's definitely a very different market for cars and motorcycles over in Europe. Here in the US, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of city dwellers on motorcycles. It's just not a thing. It's not very conducive. We've got such wide open spaces and such large distances between any two given places that, well, you're either after a cruiser, or you're after something fast, or you're after something to hold a lot of gear. It's just not the American market, in my opinion. But we'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened. But it sure looks funny. So the other big news for any fans of the FZ09 is the renaming. They've dumped the whole FZ name, which was just for the North American market for whatever reason. And they've renamed the line MT to be in line with the rest of the world, and they've always been that way. I'm cool with it either way. I like both names equally well. FZ was cool, MT is cool. They didn't really change much about the bikes themselves this year. I didn't have any surprise there because 17 had so many big updates to begin with. They really just changed some colors around. They dropped the color white completely and they replaced it with a dark gray and highlighter yellow combination, which I absolutely hate. Seems to be popular overseas. They've done those highlighter color wheels on various models and years, but over here you've only seen it a couple times and they don't sell well. So I don't know if we're going to see too many of those selling, but the red changed very slightly. They've got white stripes now on top of the tank, which I don't like at all. I'm not a fan of stripes on the tank. And then these side covers here, which are red on mine, they made black. And the black side covers on the radiators, they made red. And then they changed those little tiny plastic strips under the headlights to red. And I was looking at swapping out those for plastic pieces, the radiator sides and under the lights, just because it might look pretty cool to match those in red. Until I saw the prices. They want nearly $500 for 4 little tiny pieces of plastic, which is ridiculous. So forget that, just for a vanity piece. Now, I did something very similar way back when. On my FJR, you've got those 2 huge side pieces that on mine came silver, where of course most of the bike is red. And changing those to red, just dramatically changes the look of the bike. It takes it so much more upscale, in my opinion. And those were only 30 something a piece. That's the way they should be for plastic pieces. And at least those pieces, they had badging on them, they got some padding, and they got some grommeting, and they're huge. But I'm sorry, these tiny little things, they want like $120 for each one of these little tiny pieces of plastic. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm fine with it. I love the way mine looks now. It's got the red on top and the black all through the center. I think it looks great. I just wanted to do it just to see what it would look like, basically. But not at that kind of price, just for aesthetics. That is ridiculous. I have no idea why some pieces on a bike are very reasonable and then some are just incredibly overpriced. I don't understand it. Like when I had to do those minor repairs on my FJR, replaced a whole mirror assembly. Very reasonable. But then I had to replace a little bar end weight. And it was like 3 times as much. Just the way it goes. So I'm heading on over here to Walmart real quick because as I was putting on my boots for this ride, one of my shoelaces just completely snapped in half. I think it was fatigued from being wet so much. So the boots are still pretty new. I'm just going to grab some new laces. Hopefully they've got some. I don't think I've ever bought shoelaces in my life. Here's that corner going through. Man, I am just loving this suspension. It is just amazing. Even though the back is bouncing around terribly, the steering is just absolutely planted. Just point and shoot. Really can't stress enough how big of a change putting a great suspension on any bike makes it, especially if you're so mismatched in the weight like I am. So along with the shock assembly, I've got some other stuff coming. I've got the Stoltec rear brake reservoir relocation kit. Now, if you guys saw my video I did on the DIY, it looks good. The actual bracket looks great. It looks like a stock part, and that's because it's a repurposed stock part off the rear license plate reflector assembly. And if you got a 17, it's free. But you still have the actual reservoir stuck way up there in the air where the rear pegs were. And of course, that looks bad. Go this way. I usually don't go to Walmart at all during the day. My normal time is like 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Not used to these crowds here. That's my parking. I always get that first spot right there. I will go down the other side, I think. So I've got that relocation kit coming, which basically just tucks it way down near the brake pedal and gets it out of the way, and you don't see it looking through the bike, and you don't really see it from the rear. So I think that will be a very cool, relatively inexpensive upgrade. And then he's also sending me these black anodized aluminum wheel spacers to replace the stock steel spacers. And I think it's mostly for looks. Probably like 99% for looks. It does save a little bit of unsprung weight. I'm not going to ever pretend that I'm going to feel that kind of difference. Number one, because I'm not that good of a rider, and number two, I'm not riding on a track. But it definitely looks cool because they go from silver to black, and well, why not? Another relatively inexpensive upgrade. And even if it's just for looks, that's okay with me. Oh, is that a cart stall? Darn. Thought it was a spot. Oh, I'll keep looking. And I just installed another very inexpensive and I think very worthwhile mod, and that's a radiator grill cover. Now, I'm not a fan of big ostentatious covers. I like the plain stock black look. The problem is just having the bare radiator there, it does get damaged fairly easily. Not from kick-up, because you do have a nice fender on the bike, but just from mainly bugs in my case. So what I did is I got a cheap one off eBay. It had MT09 there, and I just used a little black touch-up paint. Can't see it at all. It bolts to the top 2 bolts and then zip ties down to the bottom. And believe it or not, that's better than the $130 OEM one, which zip ties at all 3 locations. So it's metal, it's mesh, it's black, it just stays there. I put a little Velcro felt here so you don't hear anything rattling. And that's it. It looks stock. I'm happy with it. It was only $23 shipped from China. No complaints. Well, I'm not sure which size is going to fit the best, a 54 or a 45. So I got both just in case. I've got 7 pairs of eyelets that could go either way. So they're cheap. Who cares? Even on a little bike, pushing it backwards uphill can be a challenge. So I decided to skip out on the Harley reviews that I had scheduled for last weekend for a couple reasons. Number one, it would have been a 4-hour ride plus all the work up there. It was a couple hours north. And I was really tired from a late night the night before. I was still planning to go, but man, 7 o'clock rolled around. Not only was I tired, I just didn't have the motivation. I'm not that excited about the new Harleys. So I'll wait until my local dealer here, which is a half mile from my doorstep, gets the demo truck, which they will eventually. I'll do them. It's just, I don't have the drive. It's not anything that I would be interested in buying. And it's just not my target audience, you know. It's most of my viewers aren't cruiser guys. So I don't really have the big motivation to go out and spend a whole day just to make a few videos for them. But like I said, I will definitely wait. That's a beautiful car there. Nice Lotus. We have a lot of exotic cars around here. A lot of Teslas too, for some reason. I don't know where they charge them. I think they just do them all at home. We don't have any public stations or anything. But you see pretty much everything. So speaking about the new models, like I said, they changed the FZ to MT. They also dropped the FJ name and slightly changed the bike. That had a lot more dramatic changes than the FZ series because it was already outdated. It now received all the updates that this 17 FZ series received. So you've got all the new electronics and the quick shifter option and all that kind of good stuff. But they also changed its name. And it's not MT. Overseas, it was known as the MT09 Tracer. Now it's just called Tracer everywhere. They've got 2 models, a Tracer 900 base model, and now a Tracer 900 GT, a Grand Tour. Kind of like a mini sport tour. It's still pretty similar to the way the FJ was, if you decked it all out and got the hard cases and everything. This comes with everything from the factory already installed. So it's good to go, but one pretty nice change they made that I actually wouldn't mind on this is they extended the swing arm a couple inches. And that's just on the Tracer. So that would be pretty cool just to help control wheelies. They did it for more balanced weight because obviously on that model it's geared towards carrying a lot more load and or 2 people. But the big downside is they didn't do anything with the suspension. It's still severely undersprung, just like the FZ series, now MT series. They still have the tiny little anemic springs. I don't understand why they just don't bump it up, especially on the Tracer. I mean, I can see why they don't on the MT line. It's still a budget bike line. It's still made at a smaller audience. But the Tracer is designed for load. So you would think that they would really put a nice suspension on it. But no, they just put what came on this stock, the slightly upgraded forks and the same old shock. So it's still a throwaway unit, which is too bad, but it's still a great price. So it's still a good bargain if you're looking for that kind of ride. And they're fun bikes. The engine is what really makes this series go. And there is no problem with the engine. It's fantastic. Kawasaki also came out with a very nice bike, at least on paper. Their new supercharged Sport Tour, based on the H2 design, based on basically combining the H2 with the Ninja and hard bags, detuning it a little bit, making it more streetable. Tell you, the specs are impressive. Right around 200 horse. But it's another one of those bikes where it's a love it or hate it kind of looker. And for me, it's a hate it. Absolutely hate the design. It's over the top. As far as the fairings and the graphics, it's got a big green exposed trellis frame. Not a fan of the looks. But man, the specs, I would love to have that engine in, say, an FJR. Oh, that would be awesome. And it's still a chain drive, which is very strange for a large bike that's aimed at the sport touring crowd. Chain is not what sport touring riders like. They like shaft drive. Maintenance free. You don't have to worry about water. You don't have to worry about cleaning. You don't have to worry about adjustment. You just ride and go. And go and go and go. The other big drawback to it is the cost. I think I saw mid 26,000. And that's something I'm seeing a big trend in the industry, is the prices not just creeping up, jumping up. Harley certainly has done it over the past few years, but this year especially. Now we have lots of bikes in the 20s. I mean, just starting in the 20s, going into the 30s and 40s. It used to be that was an anomaly. That was very strange. That was a very special model. Now it's pretty dang common. I can't think of too many manufacturers that don't have normal production, high dollar models. And I don't know really what they're thinking. I don't know too many people that are going to be dropping that kind of money on a bike. You've got the new Goldwing, which shot up. You've got the new Yamaha, which is way up there too, especially for what you get. Now Kawasaki's got theirs. Of course, the Italians are, well, they've always been up there, but at least you can kind of make a case for that. What it really reminds me of, unfortunately, because I know how that went, is the personal watercraft industry. Back in the 90s and 2000s, top of the line skis, man, they were 10, 11, maybe 12 for some really special model. And that's it. Most of them, they were 5, 6. Got you a really good model. Like the meat and potatoes of the industry was 5, 6, maybe 7. I remember I bought my last GP1200 brand new. I think I paid $67 and change out the door. And I got a GP760 for like $1,500 less, both brand new. That was expensive for the time. Now, you're in the 20s. 20s up to $30,000 for a freaking jet ski. It's ridiculous. I got out of it a long time ago. I don't know anybody that's still in it. I know a few people that have some really old models that just occasionally use them, but that's about it. It's even around here, the industry is not what it was. Certainly not for new bikes. What do you guys think about the prices of motorcycles in general? Am I alone? Is it just my perception? Or are prices really starting to go up fast in the last couple of years? I don't know. Let me know what you think. How long has that signal been on? Anyway, that's it, guys. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you next time. Stay tuned for a whole bunch more stuff. I got lots more trip videos coming up. Lots more installs and reviews. Have a good one.